with a company called Conoco, large oil company. And at the time, I was about, 25, 26 years old. Married, still married, by the way. 40 years coming up Monday. Thank you very much. Thank you. My wife, Gail, the pillar of my life. So, I got my first exposure to a mentor. How many of you in this room have been touched by a mentor in their life? Show of hands. This is wonderful. So sure enough, 25, 26 years old, I met my first mentor. Gentleman's name was Lou Larson, older guy. And to this day, I'm never going to forget what happened. It was our first meeting. He looked at me, he said, "There's something about you." I said, "What is it about me?" He goes, "I can't figure it out. But there's something about you, there's an aura about you. I can't figure it out, but I'm going to give you a chance to run training programs at Conoco for the engineers and the older people." I'm 26 years old. And I said, "Well, I'm very moved by that." And I then recognized what a mentor is. A mentor very often believes in us, right? Before, even more than we believe in ourselves. And this was the case with Lou Larson. So he said, "I believe in you." And he gave me a shot. And I started running programs. And I didn't want to disappoint him. So I prepared. And I made sure I didn't mess up, ever. Because I didn't want to disappoint my mentor. And so I prepared, and I started delivering these programs to older people. And then all of a sudden, the older people looking at me saying, "You're a really, really good speaker. You should go start your own business." True story. And so I held off on it because at the time, my wife and I, we've got 2 little kids at home. And even though I was tempted, I was like, maybe I should. But reality hit. It was like, got to pay the bills. So I did it for a couple more years. Kept on getting the feedback from now senior executives saying, "You're really good. You could make a lot of money running around the world speaking." So I held off a little bit longer. And then I'm close to 30 years old, and I'm reading the Houston Chronicle newspaper. And I notice who's coming to Houston is the greatest motivational speaker ever. I know this name's going to ring a bell. This is sales, right? Zig Ziglar. Remember Zig Ziglar? Passed away about 2 or 3 years ago. So I couldn't wait to see this guy. I told my wife, Gail, I said, "I got to go see this guy." She said, "Go see him." "I'm not going." I said, "Fine." So there I went. I went to see him, and here was my reaction when I saw him speak. I said, "This guy's incredible. This guy is unbelievable." He was so inspiring. That was one side of me. The other side of me said what? Anybody want to guess? He's good. I like you. I said, "I tell you what, I can do that." And I did. Said to my wife, after the Zig Ziglar speech, 2 kids at home, little kids. I said to my wife, "Gail, I know what I'm going to do the rest of my life." She said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I got to do this." So sure enough, I started running around the world doing what I do now. Although I do more than just speak nowadays. It was primarily just speaking. So I did it for 6 years. And it didn't matter where I would go in the world. I want all of you to know from the depths of my heart, I was selfish. I thought I had all the answers. You know people like this? It was all about who? Me. And all I searched for was applause. Didn't matter where I went. I would be so excited to get applause, recognition. Did it for 6 years. And then one day she says, let's look at the bank account. 36 years old, 4 kids. There's nothing in the bank account. Nothing. She says to me, you better get a job. I said, I think I better get a job. So I resigned myself to the fact my career's over. It's over. I was depressed. I go to New York City. Figured this was the last speech I was ever going to deliver. And I'm never going to forget what happened. I'm standing up on stage, and right in front of me there's 4 executives, very well dressed. I said, who are these people? They approached me at the end of the speech. They said, we would like to introduce ourselves. I said, who are you? They said, we're Master Media Publishing. We love what you said today. We're going to offer you a book contract. Me? I said, what did you say? They said, you got a book contract. I said, I called my wife. What do you think I said? What do you think I said? I did it. I did it. We've arrived. The money's going to come flying in. I was so excited. She said, calm down. That's exactly what she said. She said, calm down. Some of you have had these conversations, haven't you? We have to talk reality late in the day, right? So, I was so excited. Start writing this book. And I wrote it for 2 years. She said, let's give this thing a shot. So I wrote the book. Anybody want to guess how many copies of the book sold? True story. Take a guess. You will not offend me. Go ahead. Throw out a number. 1,000? Way too high. 100? Way too high. 1 copy sold. Anybody want to guess who bought the book? It was not my wife. It was my mother. My mother felt so bad for me. My wife Gail was, get away from me. Seriously. So it was a disaster. It was a disaster. I'm sharing with you my life for a reason. So we're not done yet. Then about 6 weeks later, Master Media calls me and they said, we have more news for you. I said, it gets better. They said, no, it's not good news. I said, what's the news? They said, we're bankrupt. I said, what are you talking about, you're bankrupt? They said, you put us out of business, Matone. You did. They said, where do we ship the books? We've got 6,000 books that we printed. Where do we ship them? I said, ship them to my house. You know who's in the driveway waiting for the books? My wife. The truck shows up. This is a true story. The truck shows up, 6,000 books. She says, let's go. I said, where are we going? She said, the dump. We're going to the dump. Every book is going. Chapter done. We go to the dump. Every book goes, except one. Kept 1 copy. And I put that copy in my bookshelf in 1997 is when the book was published. You want an irony? Here's the definition of an irony. You ready for this? Here's the title of the book, Success Yourself. Give me a break. True story. Success Yourself. Disaster. So I put the book in the bookshelf. I knew there were good things in it. I always felt deep that there was good stuff in the book. So I put the book away. 40 years old now. And I went back in the corporate world for 15 years. What did I do? I started doing, as a partner in a consulting firm. I headed up a consulting firm. I ran sales. I ran sales for a major corporation, a lot of salespeople. I learned more as a sales executive than in any other position I ever had. So that's what happened. So 15 years I did it. My wife, Gail, is up in Boston. By the way, we live in Orlando, Florida right now. But we raised 4 amazing kids, obviously now adults. Oldest son's 35, number 2 son's 32, daughter's 29, youngest son's 25. She's up in Boston taking care of her mother, who was not doing well. I'm in Orlando. I'm running around the lake. I like to work out. And then all of a sudden, I call it a calling. Literally, I was touched. And I call it a pull. Literally, I was pulled. And then there was a message, and the message was very clear. The message was, you must go back and do what you were put on the earth to do. 55 years old. I called my wife, Gail, again. I said, guess what? I'm going to do it again. And what do you think she said? She said, you can do it, but you better do it differently. And I promised her from the depths of my soul that I would do it differently. I said to her, I said, I'm going to do this kind of work, have the privilege to do this kind of work. Privilege to be here with all of you, to absorb the essence of your souls, because you touch my heart, my mind, and my soul. I committed myself in the work that I do as a coach, as somebody who does speaking, to hopefully do that for you, so that when you leave here, you operate differently, different mindset. You commit to executing at a higher level with your family. It's all connected. And I made that promise to my wife. I said, I commit, non-negotiable, that I'm going to go forward trying. My attempt is to hopefully touch hearts, minds, and souls and hopefully bring abundance to the world. I do not do what I do for money. When I was 30 to 40, my pursuit was money. I'm no longer selfish. I surround myself with good people. And I'm very open to the input of others. And that's an important message, I think, for all of us here today as leaders of revenue. And I know we have a lot of different functions in here today, but I think all of us, our mindsets has to be focused in on just more than money. There's so many other things that ultimately leadership is. And so that's my story, literally. And so I started, I literally woke up. I woke up the next day, and I could not be. Anybody experienced this before where you feel so possessed? You know what I'm saying? You're so possessed that you can't be stopped. Show of hands. Isn't it beautiful? It's a beautiful feeling. So I started writing books. I'm not even a good writer. I just started writing. I said, I got to let the world know what I'm thinking. So I wrote a book, Talent Leadership, in 2012. It ended up becoming a bestseller. I have no idea how that happened. But people started to read the book. I'm not a great writer. Then I wrote Intelligent Leadership, 2013. You ready for this? Intelligent Leadership was Success Yourself rewritten. That's what I did. Literally took a theoretical book that was not that good, looked at my coaching experience, and what I did was, obviously my background is research-oriented as an industrial psychologist, so I did the research, and I made IL a much more powerful book. That became a bestseller. So I pinched myself, all these things. So there's certain messages that I'd like to share with you today before we conclude. And one of those messages, who's this? What a story. What an incredible story this is. 1997. This guy comes back to Apple, 40 years old. He had been away for 15 years. He went away at 25, comes back at age 40. Takes the stage in Cupertino, California. He was a very good speaker, by the way. Steve Jobs was a very good speaker. You know why? You know where he spoke from? Right here. Heart. Totally unprepared. Totally. Heart. Steve Jobs, believe it or not, had a big heart. He was afraid to show it. I worked with him. He is not unlike other executives that I've worked with who look at their heart as a weakness. In fact, our hearts, showing our heart, having the courage to be courteous to others, to show compassion, to be altruistic, not only in the business world, but in our personal lives, is not a decision of weakness. It is a decision of what, everybody? Strength, courage. And how many executives that I've worked with, the privilege of working with these people, who are in their mid-60s, and here's Jobs, late in his life, says to me, I should have gone deep into my soul much earlier in my life. He became vulnerable. You know why? He was dying. That was a wake-up call. Not only for him, but also me as a coach. Because a lot of my coaching philosophy, the privilege to work with you today, this is coaching. It really is. Mutual coaching. Is that the vulnerability decision is a conscious decision. Conscious. We have a choice to make that decision. It is the most important decision that we can make as an executive, as a person. And parents in the room, parents, show of hands. We teach this to our kids very naturally. It's interesting, isn't it? How natural we are as parents to teach our kids the vulnerability decision. We don't call it that. But when we get into the business world, things shift. So think about this. What an incredible story. Takes the platform. He stands up and has the audacity in front of the people at Apple to say, our success has nothing to do with the computer. People look at him. Who's this guy? What's he talking about? Our success has nothing to do with the computer. That's what he said. He shocked people. He said it has everything to do with our customers. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to build rapport with our customers and trust and credibility by raising the bar on our leadership. That's what he said. We're going to have more, we're going to have better talent. And, you ready for this? He used a word that wasn't even used back in 1997. He used the word culture. He said we're going to work together to create a culture that will drive and sustain Apple well into the future. That's what he said. I don't know why he never got credit for using those three magical words that literally drive success in all of your businesses: leadership, talent, culture. How many entrepreneurs call me? They call me and they say, how do I make my business successful? We've got a great product, we've got a great service, we have customers. What's going on in my business? I take a look. Well, here's the issue. You're not a good leader. You haven't created a culture that ignites passion. And guess what? You're hiring, promoting the wrong people. Everybody with me on this? They're leading indicators. How many executives I meet all over the world who don't look at it as an operating imperative? They're engines. They literally drive our success. And if we can optimize those leading indicators, we increase our probability of driving operating success. It's an algorithm. Jobs knew the algorithm. He didn't execute it all that well. Because I want to share something with you. I'm pretty sure. In fact, I'm about 99.9% sure that if he walked in the door right now, if he came through these doors and said, let me stand before you right now. This is Jobs talking. I'm pretty sure this is what he would say. I want to share with all of you that I was not a great leader. Let me repeat what I said. I was not a great leader. He was not a great leader. He had a lot of issues with his style. He was incredibly aggressive. He was really, really direct. He was pushy. He was arrogant. He was strange in many respects. But I do know this. He was a creative genius. He was also a disruptor. I use that word purposely. He disrupted comfort zones. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was very strategic in disruption. He knew that if he disrupted people, he disrupted comfort zones. And as he disrupted comfort zones, you know what he did? He said, guess what? Your comfort zone is going to yield pain if you stay in your comfort zone. What does that mean? Well, for people in teams, they look at that and they say, I don't want that. So what he did was he offered a compelling alternative always. We're going to go in this direction. You know who does that these days? Jeff Bezos. Bezos is a disruptor. You remember Jack Welch? Disruptor. There's another gentleman that I've had the incredible privilege of working with from India, Tiger. You know the name Tiger? From Genpact. What a story involving Tiger. Is it Tyagarajan? Is that the right pronunciation? Close enough, I guess. Close enough. One of the great leaders in the world, in my opinion. How do I know this? I interviewed Tiger for my book, Culture, back in 2016. and then I had the privilege to work a little bit with him and his team. And I saw exactly what Jack Welch saw many years ago. Jack Welch, back a number of years ago, said, "Who is this guy?" Jack Welch loved two things about people: intellect and passion. Tiger, big time on both. So he stuck out. Jack Welch said, "I like this guy. This guy got to run Genpact." And sure enough, he became CEO of Genpact. Genpact obviously spun out a number of years ago. I sit down with Tiger in New York about 2.5 years ago. And I said, "Tiger, talk to me about your philosophy of leadership." He looks at me. He says these exact words. He said, "John, I grew up with nothing. Nothing. I can't believe what's happened to me in my life. Can't believe it. I am privileged, and I will never take it for granted. I am privileged to have the opportunity to show up at work every single day and touch the hearts, the minds, and the souls of my people and the families they support." Tiger. Tears rolling down his cheeks. Emotional. He made me emotional. He taught me what leadership was. When you think about leadership, how often do you meet people who might say leadership, this pursuit of becoming a better leader, is about me? No, it's not. Not about you. I can't tell you how often as a coach I have to look at a CEO squarely in the eye and say, "Not about you. Not about you. It's about the people in your life that a Tiger Tyagarajan understands, right? We're connected in the universe. We have a responsibility. He understands that. And an accountability to touch hearts, minds, and souls. And ultimately, everybody, I get excited about this stuff. It is about abundance, not about money. Tiger doesn't pursue money. He doesn't. When he puts his head on the pillow at night, you know what he asks himself? My legacy. How many of you in this room ask yourself that question? What is your legacy? How do you want your life remembered? You don't need to raise your hand. We've got too many leaders in the world not asking themselves the massively big questions. Do we need another example right here? This guy right here, his number one tenet for success is that it is non-negotiable. If you want to break through and truly become the best that you can be, whether you're an individual or an entity or a family, it doesn't matter. You must commit, non-negotiable, to thinking differently and thinking big. And how many people in your life do not do this? We got too many people running around thinking small. And in your organization, think about this. How often do you hear the word, boy, we really do need agility? How many people in the room hear the word agility? We've got to be more agile, right? We've got to be more innovative. No way we're going to be innovative unless we embody this and role model it as leaders in the room. So anyway, see, you're all sitting there saying he forgot about the speech. You were thinking that, weren't you? He's sitting there saying, Matone he forgot about the speech. So anyway. Jobs delivers the shocking message, by the way, and guess what? He delivered the shocking message that day on purpose to the world. He knew the world was watching. By the way, Steve Jobs did have a core purpose statement. He shared it with me. Are you ready? I was put on the earth to put a dent in the universe. Wow. I was put on the earth to put a dent in the universe. He went deep into his soul. I had the privilege of working with him on that. He never went deep, ever. He regretted that he never went deep. When he said to me, my legacy could have been better, I could have been a much better leader if I went deep into my soul. I take that message to all of you. Don't be afraid to go deep into your soul. It is the strength, vibrancy, maturity of your soul that determines everything. You already know that. I can see it in your eyes, all of you. We just seem to forget it. It is about your character, isn't it? Think about that. It's your character. It's your value system. It's your thinking patterns. It's your emotional makeup. Your soul. If your soul's strong, mature, and vibrant, guess what? Beauty spills to the outer core. That's what the world sees. How many of you have been through a 360 before? 360-degree survey. There it is. Right? You do your thing. People pass judgment not on your inner soul. They pass judgment on your behaviors. Right? They're watching you do your thing. Those behaviors and skills do not magically appear. Same thing as a parent. Your parenting skills do not magically appear. It's all ignited from your soul, all of it. We want to be great leaders, we've got to commit to strengthening this. This guy understood it late. Most people do. So anyway, he stands up on the stage and says, here's a marketing campaign called Think Different. He unveiled it. A few sessions into my work with him, he says to me, hey, Matone. He never called me John, by the way. It was always Matone. I took her with respect. He said, you remember the Think Different campaign? I said, yes. He said, let me tell you a little secret about that campaign. You know that day I gave that speech? He said, in many respects, there was symbolism that day. Symbolism. So what are you talking about? He says this. He said, John, I came back to Apple. That stage that day was my one opportunity to share with the world all that I had learned in my 15 years being away from age 25 to 40. And I knew if I could deliver that message, I would change the world. And guess what, everybody? The message is on the screen. And you already know the answer to it. If you want to get different results in your business and in your life, it is non-negotiable. Let's say it together, everybody. We need to think what? We need to think differently, and we need to think what? There it is. I learned much more, obviously, from Steve Jobs than he learned from me, okay? I'm going to be honest with you, okay? He may have learned a couple things from me. But this principle, for all of us as sales leaders, marketing leaders, operations leaders in this room. We've got to embrace this. We've got to role model it. And guess what? In our personal life, right, it's also non-negotiable. It is a tenet. So as a coach, he taught me this. So when I work with executives one-on-one, that's the first principle that we got to talk about. I've got to make sure you understand this concept. That's number one. Number two, I got to make sure you embrace this concept. Number three, I got to make sure you execute this concept. And number four, you role model it to the people in your world. Think different, think big. What a powerful, powerful concept. We've got this gap in leadership. Have you noticed this, everybody? Let's be honest. We've got a gap. You ever wonder why we've got this gap? How many books have been written on leadership? Anybody want to guess? A million. Probably more than a million. All these books on leadership. And they're good. They're good books. You remember the book written by Stephen Covey? The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You remember that book? So I always go back to that book. That book was important in my life. That book, in my mind, was a book about the inner core. Would you agree with me? Inner core. I mean, it was focused in on the soul. We haven't had a book like that in years. It's interesting, isn't it? A lot of leader development tends to be outer core oriented. If you go to the top universities, you send executives, right? Maybe some of you have been to these things. You know what I'm saying? To a university program. They tend to be more outer core oriented. Strategic thinking, whatever. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to it. All I know is that I guess what I've discovered in 6.5 years, working with people like Jobs, Roger Enrico, who I work with at PepsiCo. Tell you, he was a tremendous executive. Bill Logue at FedEx. I had 3 very high visible coaching assignments after I relaunched my business. So a lot of coaches will come up to me and they say, boy, I bet your business took off after those 3. Answer? What do you think? What do you think? No. Just because. Right? It's a long road. Whether you're a coach, I'm not sure what you do, sir, but there's no straight line. There's a lot of ups and downs. Is that true? So everybody says, boy, you were able to get all these assignments. Well, the Bill Logue assignment was lucky. So was Roger Enrico. I went to school with Roger Enrico, Babson College. He was older than I was, 10 years. Roger knew I was coaching. It was late in his career. He was chairman. He wanted to work with younger people. He wanted to coach. So we started meeting. That's how that happened. I think we got to ask ourselves the big questions. Am I a role model? That's a good question. Think of yourself as a magnet. A magnet. You just you walk in and, do you attract other human beings? Some of you sitting here saying, of course I do. I'm a very good-looking human being. Of course I attract other people. I'm talking about a magnet where people must be around you. Must. You know why? You enrich them. You know what I'm saying? You walk into a room, people look at you and they say, I got to be around that human being. There's something about their soul Their soul touches my heart, my mind, my soul. I am enriched when I'm around that human being. That's a role model. But real role models, it's mutual. I'm also enriched by being around you, sir. So you touch my heart, my mind, my soul. You see what I'm talking about? Asking the really big questions. And it does take courage. You know, it takes courage to ask, what's my legacy? A lot of young people have a hard time with that question because they don't want to think about death is the reason. But ultimately, our definition, that I would like to think about us going forward with as leaders and really changing the world is the definition of what is my legacy? How do I want my life remembered? You're never too young to ask that question. It's difficult, but it's an important question. Raises the bar for all of us. Character. Have you noticed an erosion of character in the world? It's rampant. You know, I think of courage. Being courageous is an element of character. Working hard, diligent. Honesty, right? Loyalty, modesty. Anybody in this room ever learned about somebody that you thought you knew? You get a phone call, and so-and-so says, hey, did you hear about so-and-so? Did you hear what they did? And what happens? You say, you got to be kidding me. There was a guy by the name of Dennis Kozlowski, Tyco, many, many years ago. Dennis Kozlowski, Fortune 100 company, Tyco, about 9 years ago. Respected. Everybody looked up to Kozlowski. Everybody did. They thought he had impeccable character. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened with the governance here, but finally the governance, they identify somebody's taking money from Tyco. You know who's taking money from Tyco? The CEO, Kozlowski. He's taking money. He's embezzling millions of dollars from this major corporation, and then he has the audacity to buy boats, literally boats, paintings. And now he's in jail. That's one example. There's many, many examples. Your character is non-negotiable. Whatever your character is will determine your ultimate destiny. Period, end of story. Non-negotiable. Doing a speech, you'll get a kick out of this. This was about 4 years ago. Good friend of ours, 7th and 8th grade teacher. She came up to me, she said, John, would you deliver a speech to the 7th and 8th graders at the school? I said, I'd love to do this. So sure enough, right, my wife, we hop in the car, we go to the school, greater Orlando area, walk into this gymnasium, parents, grandparents, 7th graders here, 8th graders here. It's an awards banquet, basically, right? They want to give all the good citizenship awards and this and that. So my wife, Gail, says, what are you going to talk about? I said, I'll talk about character. She said, that's a nice choice. I said, thank you. So I stand up, and I started the speech just like this. I said, to the 7th graders and 8th graders, parents, I didn't ask them. I said, students, does anybody have a definition of character that you would like to share? So I scan. I see nobody's hand goes up. Then all of a sudden, young guy, first row. I run over to him. I extend my hand. I said, "What's your name?" Young man stands up, proceeds to grab the microphone, turns around to 2,500 people and says, with, by the way, incredible poise. I'm sitting there saying, who's this guy? This guy's taking over the speech. He goes, "My name's Amant. Here's my definition of character. It's what you do when nobody else is looking." Exactly. The place erupts. The 8th graders are upset. They're looking at this. Who's this kid? Who is this guy? But what an amazing, amazing definition of character from a young man, right? So we could talk about this for hours, everybody. Look at this right here, mindset. The right mindset. Your mindset. And you know this as sales leaders, revenue generators in this room. If you've got the right mindset, you're going to generate good emotions. Thoughts control emotions, emotions control behavior, behavior controls results. I don't care what pursuit we're talking about in your life. Good thinking, good emotions, good behavior, good results. It's an algorithm. Bad thinking, bad emotions, bad behavior, bad results. It's an algorithm. Great sales leaders create a culture of belief. I can, I will, I must. Even better is not I, but what? There it is. We can, we will, we must. With authenticity, obviously being able to back that up. Good thinking patterns generate emotions of exhilaration, passion, excitement. I can, I will, I must. We can, we will, we must. Exhilaration, passion, excitement. Those are emotions that mobilize action, good action. Problem-solving behavior, in fact, which generates higher probability of good results. You know when I learned this? I learned this when I was 16 years old. I'm of Italian descent. My family's from Italy. The Matone family showed up in Brooklyn, New York, early 1900s. Both sides of my family. One side from Salerno, the other side from the Isle of Capri. That's my background. My dad comes up to me, 16 years old. He said, "It's time to learn how to drive a car." How many people in this room remember this time? Okay. So, my dad, Dominic Matone, says, "Let's go." I said, "Where are we going?" He goes, "We're going to the high school parking lot because it's big." And so there it is. You know the stick shift, right? Clutch and all of that. So I'm on the driver's side. My dad's on this side. Now here in India, it's the other way around. So just bear with me. My dad gets impatient. And then all of a sudden I didn't want to look at him. Then he does it again. And then I looked at him. And then the eyeballs. I'm never going to forget the eyeballs. My dad's no longer with us. I have nightmares. I can't even sleep anymore. I'm telling you the truth. Those eyeballs went right through me. And he looked at me. And he said these exact words. He said, "Do something." And I looked at him and I said, I don't know what to do. He says, "I got a suggestion." I said, "What's the suggestion?" He said, "Turn the key. Depress the clutch." I look down. It's the 3 pedals. It's 3 pedals right there. And I got 2 feet. There's no way that any human being could drive a vehicle, that vehicle having 3 pedals, a human being having 2 feet. No way. I can't do it, right? It was a nightmare. But I did learn, didn't I? I learned that day. How did I learn? Anybody? What happened? My I can'ts were converted into what? I can and I will. But what happened, though? It was painful. It was painful, wasn't it? And isn't that true in transformation in our life? It's always painful. But ultimately, it's about belief. And as executives in this room, let me see the sales executives in this room, the salespeople on your teams. You know, it is not about your salespeople saying, I think I can do it. Because ultimately, thinking that you can do something is not good enough. Who cares? It's always about belief, always. Because when you believe, that is the foundation for execution and taking action. Here's the wheel of intelligent leadership, everybody. Green and yellow inner core. Inner core drives the outer core. I want you to think about your soul. When you leave here today, I want you to ask yourself, is my inner core as strong, mature, and vibrant as it needs to be? Is my value system operating on the right cylinders? For example, you know what will ignite your heart? Courtesy, compassion, altruism. Altruism's a value. Think about this as leaders in the room. If you can ignite courtesy, compassion, and altruism, you've got somebody called an engaged employee. Interesting, isn't it? Think about this whole concept of happiness. How many people that you might know in your life who pursue happiness? There's so many people running around saying, how do I get to be happy? You know what's really interesting? And you already know this. All of you know this. Happiness is not to be pursued. Happiness right in front of you. It's right in front of you. It's in front of all of us. It's a decision that we need to make. Because ultimately, I'm going to be happy if I create courtesy, compassion, altruism. I make you centered and happy. If I make people happy, guess what? I'm happy. Managers who are really, really good, who understand that concept, create engaged people who will literally unleash for that executive. Inner core drives outer core, drives the 4 A's. Look at this, everybody. The 4 A's are the seeds to achieving sustained greatness and creating a lasting legacy. I want you to think about this, all of you. As you go forward after today's program, you finish the conference tomorrow, commit to igniting altruism in your heart. Touch. Do not be afraid to touch hearts, minds, and souls. Do not be afraid. Like Steve Jobs was afraid to show this. Afraid to show this. He had massive capability to show his heart. And he had massive regret he didn't do it with his family, with his wife in particular and his daughter. He was better with his son. If he was here today, I know for sure he would say that. This is what's missing in the world of leadership, right here. And it's not that we don't have the capability, we do. It exists. It exists in each and every one of us. Affiliation. What do I mean by affiliation? Affiliation is raising the bar, committing to a higher level of, do you have bonds with people? You know what I'm saying? How many people walk around and they say, oh, I got a friend and I got this relationship. You know what I'm saying? I got this friend and I got this relationship. And then all of a sudden you find out the relationship evaporates, right? It evaporates. We've got to commit to a higher level of bond with the people in our lives. Customers, family, achievement. Are you moving the needle in the world? Calibrate yourself. Every night you go home, you put your head on the pillow. Did I move the world? Did I actually move the world? Not did you sell the deal. That's important too. Same thing in my business. You got to have numbers. But there's a bigger criteria. And then abundance. That's the key to our legacy right there. Actually, not only legacy. I would say the 4 A's are the seeds to leadership. Leadership. I believe the 4 A's are the seeds to life and legacy. There you have it. Culture. Look at this. Can do, will do, must do. Leading indicators. Can do, will do, must do. What does capability mean? So, you know, the interesting thing is, I write the book Culture in 2016. I do the research. I discover that there's 5 cultures of culture in your business, in your family, in a team. They're all the same. The first culture that is a leading indicator is the culture of capability. The culture of capability goes something like this. I believe, not I think, I believe that I've got the skills and capabilities required for success to be successful in my job and help my organization achieve its mission. You see what I just said? It's not think. The question is, do people in your business believe that? Well, guess what? We can measure that. In fact, I do measure it. When I work with companies, I created an assessment called the 5 C's, 5 cultures of culture. We can measure these 5 cultures. Culture number 2 is the passion culture. This is the culture that Tigers created at Genpact. When you walk in the Genpact, you can feel the will culture. It's a culture of will. It comes from who? It comes from Tiger. The passion. It all spills from you, the leader. Tiger says this all the time. Don't be afraid of passion. Don't be afraid to show passion. Got to be real, got to be authentic. But that's the culture of will. If you're going to be successful, individually, collectively, capability culture has got to be strong, mature, vibrant. Will-do culture got to be strong, mature, vibrant. Connectedness. Connectedness. This is called alignment, where you feel aligned. You know what I'm saying? Mission. Are you aligned? Feel connected. Feel connected. I believe I'm connected. Everybody see what we're doing here? The first 3 are inner core variables. I believe. I feel. I believe, I feel. All inner core. Look at the next 2 up. Culture of execution and a culture of team success, which is collaboration. recognize that the key to unlocking all of our potential is making the decision to be vulnerable. So, let's think about what we're talking about here. Very important that we all embrace thinking differently, thinking big. It's also important that we make a conscious decision to be vulnerable. What do I mean by vulnerable? Having the courage to raise your hand and say, I need feedback. I'm open to input. Remember I shared my story where I made the decision at 55. Remember that story? I'm going to be honest with all of you. See this? I'm always pinching myself. I'm always saying to myself, I can't believe what's happened in 6 years. You know why this has happened? It's happened because I made a very conscious, mature decision at 55 years old, very late in my life, to be vulnerable, to open up. I don't have all the answers. In fact, I say that as a coach a lot to executives. I have a few answers. Most of the answers reside deep within your soul. And we're going to partner together to discover two things. Massive gifts and strengths that are hiding within you, and there are many. And they often look at me saying, what are you talking about? But guess what? All of us have massive gifts and strengths that are deep within our soul that we've never discovered before because we fear going deep. We do. It's all about going deep. The companies that are surviving these days have a culture of vulnerability. I'll bet you know exactly what I'm talking about. You remember the book, Good to Great, 20 years ago. Good to Great, written by Jim Collins, 20 years ago. Go back to that book. Now let's think about this. Collins is holding up companies 20 years ago, short time, that he says you got to follow what these companies are doing 20 years ago. Go to the book tonight when you go home and look at the companies that do not exist anymore. You're going to be shocked. Enron, Nokia, Motorola, and on and on and on. 20 years. 20 years. You know why they're no longer with us? They didn't have a culture of vulnerability. They didn't have the antenna up. Right here, bring it on. Feedback. Because feedback generates course correction. Got to be vigilant, right? We need to be vigilant in our families as well, all of us. What's the reaction, right? What kind of reaction am I generating as a parent or as parents? Got to read. Got to be vigilant. Got to course correct. Got to have the courage to course correct. Right here. This is the most important decision that we can make as leaders. Yes, thinking differently, thinking big is beautiful. I love that concept. But we need to counterbalance it, right? With vulnerability. There's the magic. Think differently, think big, counterbalance with vulnerability. Now, I'll bet you know people running around the earth who don't do that. People who overplay the first one and they don't embrace vulnerability are called egomaniacs. You met people like that before? Let's not name names. They're all over the place. That's not leadership. I feel like I'm preaching to everybody. Yes, sir. Yes, it does. Yes. Yeah, it's a great question. The question is very, very good. It's a matter of what are the inflection points that will move somebody to recognize the value of vulnerability, basically, right? I mean, that's what you're talking about. And everybody can fight me on this, but I think a lot of people never even get to that point. A lot of times, like Steve Jobs, you know what caused the vulnerability? Pancreatic cancer. That's what caused it. In fact, that's what caused him to start reading books that caused him to read my book, which led to a phone call. He read not only my book, he was reading a lot of books. You know why? He had questions about his legacy. You know why? Time. It's running out. So that's what ends up happening. It may not be death, but it could be the recognition that for some reason I'm not generating or yielding the pleasure out of my life that I should. That could be an inflection point. Comes down to pain-pleasure ratios in many respects. So, but I will tell you, a lot of executives that I work with have never really embraced the vulnerability decision as a courageous one. A lot of them look at it as a weak decision. And when you change that and you help them discover that decision, a courageous one, is the instigator. Let's think about this. How do you grow as a person, as an organization, unless you've got vulnerability? You can't. It requires courage. It requires the decision to be vulnerable. That instigates learning and growth. That instigates agility. And it instigates what every organization in the room wants, innovation. All starts with vulnerability. That's what I would say right now. Now, we could talk for hours about that, but that's what I would say. Thank you for asking. Round of applause right here, by the way. Thank you. Excellent. Yes, sir.
Would it imply that what you mean by saying making the decision to be vulnerable actually could be rephrased as an ability to listen?
Yes.
To understand that you're weak areas and that possibly you're not as strong as in giving the right answers all the time?
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hi. I would like to ask one question. In the last couple of years of experience, which leaders or which organization you see have probably been closest to the vulnerability or have been vulnerable? So, quoting their success on the basis of that, or the organizational change which has happened because of their attitude or the willingness or culture of being vulnerable.
You go right down the list. There's a lot of the IT consulting firms that are big, for example. I think Cognizant is a big entity. I do quite a bit of work with Cognizant. I think they've done a very, very good job.
So does it go down to more of technology and knowledge-based companies
Not
rather
necessarily.
than...
It's all over the map, literally all over the map. And there's a lot of smaller companies that actually can instigate this a lot easier. Entrepreneurial companies that want to build a culture that will sustain understand that this is going to be key to their success, which is literally being vigilant and being open, listening. You think about this, right? Let's think about this, everybody. You could go up to any person on the street that doesn't know you and just go up to them and say, I've got a problem. I got a challenge. I'd like to take a minute to share it with you. I would love to see if you've got some perspective that could help me. It's interesting. They don't need to know you. Right? So, we don't do this. But it's amazing the more you open up to the beauty around us, because we have incredible beauty around us. There is so much beautiful perspective in this room. If I had the chance to work with you one-on-one, that's why I love coaching. I got to be honest with you. There are many, many times I will leave coaching sessions saying, why am I being paid here? Literally, I'm being honest with you. Where I have left a session so enriched and learned so much. Now, as a manager, question, are you a coach? You're all coaches, all of you. You do exactly what I do. All of you do. Right? So again, it may not be a great example, but the extent to which we could ignite just going up to people and phrasing it as, do you have a suggestion for me? Now, we have a choice with that perspective to either accept it or reject it. True? Same thing in our families, by the way. It's all the same. But if we reject the choice, think about this. If we reject the choice, we reject an important choice that goes with behaving differently that might give you more abundance in the world. There it is. We just got to be open. So as managers, let's go to our people, get perspective, get insights, and on and on and on. Great questions, by the way. Oh, look at this one. Nobody sees your inner core except you. But you have to make the decision to look inside. That's a good decision. The most powerful leadership truth is that failure almost always precedes success. Yet the most powerful irony is that success is often the first step to failure. Back to the Jim Collins book. You know, some people would say, well, what happened to these companies? And I'll bet you would say complacency, right? Resting on laurels, comfort zone, deluded themselves into believing that their comfort zone was in fact yielding more pleasure. In fact, it did. It's always disruption that's going to yield more pleasure, especially nowadays, everybody, right? Mindset. But it's also interesting that success carries with it a liability. With success comes opportunity. And so not only successful people, but successful organizations find out that, wow, good things are happening. And then all of a sudden, in the world of business, people sitting around, boy, good stuff happening. Maybe we should acquire this company over here. Maybe we should acquire this place over here, right? And all of a sudden, everybody gets distracted. That's what happens. So I wake up this morning. You know how many interview requests I had? 5. When I woke up 6 years ago, you know how many I had? 0. Now, I'm honored. Don't take me wrong here, you know? You see what I'm saying? Distraction. In my little world, right? A little bit of success, all of a sudden all these incredible things happening. You got to stay laser focused. That's the key. In fact, I would say it is the disciplined pursuit of less that will generate more. Disciplined pursuit of less that always gives us more. Difficult to execute that nowadays. It's interesting, right? A couple more minutes, everybody, and then we're all set here. Commit every day to the pursuit of worthy achievement, being altruistic, and building mutually compelling, rewarding relationships with others. We just said this. We have the choice with feedback. We just talked about that. We got to reflect. Recognize the power of daily reflection. You know, why don't you write these down? Let's write down 7 things, and that will be, I think, a good summary on what we've talked about. Okay, here they are. Okay, number 1. Let's say it together. Think different, think big. That's number 1. Number 2, the vulnerability decision. The vulnerability decision. Number 2. Number 3, don't write this down yet. Do not take your gifts and strengths for granted. What do I mean by this? Be proud of your gifts and strengths. Why? They've served you well. Your gifts and strengths are the reason you are who you are today, the essence of who you are. Don't ever take your gifts and strengths for granted. Be proud of your gifts and strengths. In fact, I would suggest this. Commit tomorrow to make your strengths even stronger tomorrow than they are today. That's what great people do. And that's what great organizations do. I've had many executives that I've coached say to me, wait a minute, I just paid you money not to tell me my strengths. I want to know what my weaknesses are. Anybody ever met somebody like that before? Let me tell you what. That's a weakness. You know what that's called? Just like cholesterol in our bodies. We've got good and bad cholesterol. It's very interesting what will spike bad cholesterol. Stress, right? Well, when I hear that from somebody who's not willing to embrace their gifts and strengths, that's bad cholesterol. That's a weakness. That's called a lack of self-acceptance. That's the bad cholesterol side of vulnerability. Interesting, isn't it? Be proud of your gifts and strengths. Take your beauty and explode it out to the world. Be proud of it. Related to that, don't ever forget our weaknesses. We do have weaknesses. But let's not focus in on 10 of them. Let's focus in on a couple of them. And let's attack those weaknesses. Commit to getting them better. Number 4, be courageous. Be courageous in your pursuits of everything in your life. Don't be a crazy person, but don't be afraid to be passionate, like Tiger said. Don't be afraid to open your mouth professionally. Don't be afraid to be assertive. Don't be afraid to come out of your comfort zone. Surround yourself with great people who give you support as you explode outside the comfort zone. Execute. Passion. Precision. Poise. Be vigilant. Keep your eyes open. Great people, great organizations do that. Number 6, course correct. And number 7, last one, mindset, privilege. Privilege mindset. Just like Tiger. Tiger, privileged. Did you hear the words? I feel privileged. Just like I feel privileged to be here with all of you today. What does a privileged mindset do to our mindset? What is insight? Insight's what? Presence. Think about this. When we are privileged, when our mindset is privileged, I feel privileged. Mindset. Nothing else matters. I'm totally present. I can absorb your soul. You can absorb my soul. It's difficult to do that nowadays. Have you noticed that? Because we're pulled in so many directions. Think about it. What enriches presence is the mindset of privilege. That's why Tiger said, I feel privileged. Privileged. As opposed to a mindset of duty. You know people who have a duty mindset? Oh, well, I got to hop on an airplane. Here's me, right? Used to be me. I got to hop on an airplane. I got to travel around the world. Oh, my goodness. And you know the words anticipatory stress. Anybody, you know what I'm talking about? You get ahead of yourself. How many people get it? Raise your hand. You get ahead of yourself, right? You start thinking about all this and all that. Wait a minute. Present. Meet people. Very nice to meet you. We talk. You enrich my soul. You see what I'm saying? That's great leadership. I want to thank all of you for the incredible opportunity to be here. I hope you got something from it. I know for sure I did. Listen, everybody, I wish you a great life. Please reach out to me anytime. Very simple to reach me. I am accessible, john@johnmatone.com. I want to thank this wonderful group, Times Group, for the incredible privileged opportunity to be here. Thank you so much, all of you. God bless everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, sir. I'm sure each and every one of us here would love to have you and our smiles in one frame. So may I please request all of you to join us in front of the backdrop along with sir and a nice selfie, and we're going to put that on Twitter and let the world know we are trending. By the way, we are trending on number 4. So a round of applause for all of you all right here. And sir, may I please request all of you to join us right here and make sure that we are all in that one big frame with him. What an opportunity. I'd like to invite all of you all to please join us, and let's make sure that we capture you all. Let me add that this is going to be an opportunity for us to, one, of course, get a picture with sir, of course, and at the same time, whichever one of you tweets that picture with a fantastic caption first with the hashtag ET Sales Strategy gets a prize right away. So the first of you, so remember it's the fastest fingers first. I don't know how I'm going to get every one of us in one single frame. So let's see if we can get some nice selfies out there and some brilliant smiles. I'm sure we'll all fit in. Come on. Half of us on stage, half of us off. I'm sure we'll manage it. Sir, it's a group selfie. He wants to win the prize. So it's a group selfie. We're going to have all of us in one frame. Team ETH to please join us on stage and be a part of this grand celebration. Well, the good thing is that Mr. Matone has the great height, so I'm sure he's definitely going to be visible there. And a brilliant smile as well.
Selfie, right?
So while we are smiling for our professional photographer, please remember to click a group selfie along with sir, and please make sure that you tweet it using our hashtag. Center of attraction right here. Sorry for putting you on a spotlight there, but please. And the brilliant smiles. You know, we always believe that we shouldn't just smile, but make some noise as well. And now that the 4th edition has come out so successfully with 100% audience post-lunch, also very active for Sir's session, this truly calls for a round of applause. So let's make some noise, ladies and gentlemen. It's a 1, 2, 3, whoo! Superb. On behalf of the entire team of ETH, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for making the Economic Times Sales Strategy Summit, Unlocking Minds, 4th edition, so very successful. Of course, the event has been co-powered by MindTickle. Let me also take this opportunity to thank our partners, of course, MindTickle, along with our digital transformation partner, CloudQ, our AI sales assistant, Selena, our artificial intelligence partner, Racetrack, our sales transformation partner, Bizom, our associate partners, Brandia, Salesforce, Viamo, education partner, WeSchool, our media partners and webcast partner. And at this point, I'd like to request Ms. Ebenezer to please join us on stage and personally thank Mr. Matone for his presence, if we can take him away from the selfies, that is. And we are looking forward to seeing each and every one of you on day 2 of the summit, because this is going to be a continuation of winning and success stories. So we'd like to request each and every one of you to be here on time. So may I request the entire team of ETH to please join us on stage in honoring Sir. The entire team, please. We all believe in we, like Sir said. It's not about I, it's about we. So keeping the spirits on, Team ETH, may I please request you to join us on stage? And the first few people who put the selfies on Twitter with the caption using our hashtag get a prize. So in case any of you have already put the picture, please let us know. We'll give you the prize right away. I'd like to remind all of you to please continue to fill in the feedback forms on our app, and we look forward to seeing all of you all tomorrow. Once again, a reminder. Mr. Kapoor, may I request you to please join us? I'd like to remind all of you that those who put the tweets on with the picture get a prize right away. So please do collect the prizes from us and continue to put in your feedback forms. Sir, it's a group selfie. We look forward to having all of you all tomorrow in the morning for a full day conference, a learning session.